My dad wanted everything. The judge, his friend, said I had no value as a witness. I bent to the mic and said a single call sign. The color drained from his face. The gavel slipped from his grip. How do you know that name? His power was gone. The judge leaned forward, his voice oozing with a smug finality. The witness has provided no evidence of financial acumen or frankly, any real-world value. Her testimony is irrelevant. My father, Richard, a ruthless real estate mogul who saw people as assets or liabilities, nodded in agreement from the plaintiff's table. A cold calm settled over me as I leaned toward the microphone, my voice even and quiet. With all due respect, Your Honor, my value is in assessing threats. For example, I understand the significance of the call sign Vesper. The courtroom was silent. Judge Carmichael, an old friend of my father's whose loyalty was thicker than his law books, went pale. The smirk on his face didn't just vanish, it was wiped away, replaced by a mask of pure terror as his hand began to tremble. The gavel slipped from his grip, clattering against the polished wood. How do you know that name? He stammered, his voice a choked whisper. It had all started 2 weeks earlier in that very same room, during the preliminary hearing. The air was thick with tension. The dispute centered on the estate left by my late mother. My father was petitioning the court to place my entire inheritance into a trust managed solely by him. His argument was simple and humiliating. I was naive, irresponsible, and fundamentally incapable of managing my own affairs. And Judge Carmichael, acting less like an impartial arbiter and more like my father's personal counsel, was more than happy to help sell the narrative of my incompetence. He openly mocked my quiet nature and what he called my vague, low-level government job. I can still hear his condescending drawl. Ms. Sterling, your father built an empire. You, on the other hand, seem to file things. Am I getting that right? My father's laugh boomed through the chamber, a sound of cruel victory. I watched the court stenographer flinch, her fingers pausing over the keys. In that moment, I added this humiliation to the internal ledger I kept, right next to the missed graduations and the condescending pats on the head when I tried to explain my work. But this time was different. A quiet, cold fury began to burn through the fog of old wounds. This wasn't just another family dinner where I could retreat into myself. This was a court of law. This wasn't just a dismissive comment. It was a judge, on the record, officially belittling a federal employee to discredit her testimony before it was even given. He was so sure of his power, so certain of my weakness, that he had carelessly documented his own bias for the entire world to see. My father's laughter filled the courtroom. He thought the judge had handed him his victory on a silver platter. He had no idea that Judge Carmichael had just created a public record of judicial bias, giving me the legal grounds to introduce evidence from a world he didn't know existed.